So I've been playing around a lot in Throne and Liberty, and since hitting level 50 and pretty early on, I decided I want a piece of the healing game. Now there's a ton of guides out there, I even looked at a few and played around with some, but I just wasn't feeling the satisfaction from the feel of the build. So, I did the old school approach and built my own, just like we used to back in the early days of MMOs. I get that's not for everyone, so here's the skinny on what my build's about, and kind of how it works, and I've got to say it's super fun to play with. Now the basis of the build relies on damage. Yep, you heard right, the build is based on keeping damage up to keep people alive. Now for the old and bold MMO players out there, think Disc Priest from early World of Warcraft. The way I've done this is to focus on keeping a constant stream of heals going out to the target. Let's say the tank in a dungeon. I do this by keeping curses running on as many targets as possible. Now I have a constant basis of healing ticking out. I then look at using some of the damage skills to provide bursts of healing when needed. That, coupled with the healing skills that the one provides, means we're cooking on gas and good to heal our way through anything. Now just as a quick disclaimer, this has not really relied much on gear. I've been running this build since hitting level 50 and haven't changed a great deal, so as long as you have the stat points, specializations and skills in the right places, you're good. You'll also see that I'm not completely maxed out on ability levels as of yet. Even so, the healing provided is more than sufficient. So let's get to it. Skills. First up, I use Chaotic Shield. I'm using this skill purely because it provides faster DPS than the stat. And also, if you get a successful dodge, it'll activate another curse stack if needed, which is always helpful for this build. Time for Punishment. This will decrease the target's skill damage, setting you up for maximum output on any burst damage you need to do, in turn providing burst healing. Touch of Despair. This, along with Time for Punishment, is super important. The skill will provide a constant stream of healing for your target, so having that maxed out and having all 3 stacks on the bad guys is super important. Fireball. This is your big burst damage utility, also providing big burst heals. Chain Lightning. This will give you more damage and also act as a damage increase buff. The fact it chains as well with no damage mitigation will help you out a lot in big mob fights. Justice Lightning. This is another big burst of damage, increasing your healing ability. Great again for big damage in mobs. Invincible Wall. Now this is pretty new to the lineup. I've been using it to protect tanks from big damage outputs, myself or even party members that might be on death's door. Cursed Nightmare. Just recently put this onto the lineup, just to give me some CC. I need to get that leveled up as of yet, but it's more situational than anything. Not really a must-have, but always useful to have. Swift Healing. This is the numero uno healing skill. I can pop even the biggest tank's health bar to full in 3 consecutive uses. Cooldown is relatively short, and it's great to pop across multiple party members if needed. Fountain of Life. This is a great skill. Ideal for boss mechanics that require you to gather up as it's an AoE skill. Pop this bad boy and nobody's dying. Clay's Salvation. Another AoE group skill. It's brilliant for a quick group heal if you don't have time to hang around, as the cast time is pretty short. Blessed Barrier. I use this if we're in a situation where the party member needs to be prepared for a big hit. With its 40% heal increase, one use of any heal skill will do some solid work for you. And finally, High Focus. I use this to prepare for something that will require me to use my rotation again quickly, maybe the final phase of a boss, or if I need movement speed for a mechanic in a boss fight. Now for skill specializations, I'll leave these on the screen so you can hit pause and copy what you need to, as this is a whole video in itself. Now onto passive skills. Devotion and Emptiness. Now the skill heal increase in this is huge, and it can really help you out in any situation, and as it's a passive skill, it's always there. Noble Revival, increases skill heal again. Vampiric Contract. Now, this is one of the most important. So, Vampiric Contract restores health by 15.3% of the damage dealt to a victim of the user's curse. And as this build relies massively around curses being active, this is what provides you with the constant stream of healing to your target. Wraith's Beckon. So this increases the user's curse duration by a set time. As well, it increases your curse chance by 4%. Again, aiding your curses is a big deal for this build. Again, curses, the longer the curses, the more damage the curses do, the bigger and better the stream of healing you can do to your target. Mana Ball Eruption. This increases the chance that projectiles that you fire, including bombs, can trigger more than one bomb being fired, or projectile for that matter. This is ideal because if you can hit them with a big fireball and do big damage, and it'll fire another, that's 2 lots of burst healing you get out of 1 skill use. Forbidden Sanctuary. This ability increases skill damage by 140, but it does in turn increase all mana cost efficiency by 15%. This isn't too much of a problem, because with this build you have crazy regen, a big mana pool, and efficiency really isn't an issue. However, the big skill damage increase is a must-have. Selfless Soul. Now, Selfless Soul grants health recovery and regen to allies via active skills, increases mana regen by 32 and skill heal by 6.7% per stack for 3 seconds, and it stacks up to 5 times. So with this on and you constantly healing, your mana regen is constantly growing and it will max out pretty quickly. And finally, Full of Corruption. Full of Corruption's great because it increases damage and mana regen when enemies die from your weaken effects. Now, as weaken and curses are a big deal on this build, again, boosts your regen and increases your max damage. Also stacks up to 3 times. Now let's look at some of my stats, and then finally we'll look at how we use the build. Now you can see that the majority of my stat points are in Wisdom, as you would think for a caster or a mage style class. Wisdom would be key. Perception is also ideal. Dexterity, I've put a few points in Dexterity purely because it provides crit chance and crit damage. Now for your big burst heals, like using Fireball for instance, you'll see that they crit a lot, and the bigger the crit damage, the bigger the burst heal you can do to your target party member. Strength, there isn't so much in there. It's not really a stat that I've focused on. I feel a touch of dexterity, wisdom, and some perception will do just the job. Now, as I said at the start of the video, quick disclaimer, my gear isn't maxed out, and that's because a lot of this isn't really focusing on what gear I've got, because I'm not fully end gamed yet. I'm still grinding for the gear. So this is just an idea of a good basis build for a healer. However, one of the key stats that I'm looking for on weapons and armor is wisdom. Anything that gives you crit chance, anything that gives you cooldown speed, and anything that helps with your healing. Now let's talk about how we use this build in context. I'm working here on the practice dummies just to show you how my rotation works. So my first priority here is to get any of my dots or anything that does damage over time. I get them up, and then I do my big hit. I get my big fireball off really quick. You can see with the skill specialization shown on screen before, I'm also doing some AoE damage with the fireball. Then both the lightning skills also do AoE damage, which is helpful. Now you can see the green numbers popping above my head is the stream of healing that I'm providing constantly. That will apply to any target that I select in my party. So let's say tank in mind, this is the sort of healing that the tank's getting. Now this is all without using any healing skills at all. And healing skills I find are pretty situational. If we're standing in a group, obviously use an AoE. If it's a single target that needs it, then I'll use a spot heal. I find it's best to spend some time trying and testing what works for you in terms of skills for healing, but as a baseline, the damage skills work really well in that order. It's a super easy rotation to use with a very small cooldown period. So that's it. Let me know down in the comments below how you find this build, and if you find anything that improves it. I'd love to know. So thanks for watching. Make sure you give the video a like, if you liked it of course, and if you like the content, subscribe and you'll see more. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.